Thank you, Economic Times, for hosting this event. A very good afternoon to all the viewers, and welcome to this Fireside Chat. While the exponential growth of application usage is extremely exciting and encouraging, it also brings in the challenges of how does one ensure continuous digitalization and security of these applications. To throw some light on as to how one can overcome these challenges and build a successful fintech organization, I am delighted to introduce two distinguished technology leaders who are helping their organizations stay ahead of the curve in this fintech era. Please join me in welcoming Biswabrata Chakravorty, CIO of IndusInd Bank. We all fondly call him Biswa, and Krishnan Parameswaran, co-founder and CTO of Namaste Credit. Websites and mobile apps were very commonly used. Of course, they're still commonly used, and a mechanism to interact with your customers or consumers or even the ecosystem. You made a very good point about co-mingling or co-integrating with other, like for working with banks. And APIs are now becoming a humongous, use case where you have to talk to other, whether it's a bank or whether it's a back-end broking or whatever. That's the way to kind of go. And now when you're interacting with, so you have these many digital platforms to kind of deal with. How do you ensure security is extremely important, right? And especially when you're dealing with them online. How do you ensure, what are the things you all do for making sure the security of these applications, are paramount and taken care of?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ashish, that you brought out. As we make more systems integrated, APIs are going to be the norm. It did exist before also, but the information security is paradigm. And then when we move on to the cloud security, obviously the most important aspect here is like how you interface with the discrete systems, right? So first and foremost is the cloud architecture should be kind of built in such a way that it is built from the security angle, right? Like you have the required firewalling solutions, the required private cloud networks, right, within the cloud solution, and then you have your data access or the production access layers, which are curtailed, and it is always having the necessary firewalling and NATing mechanisms, which will prevent the direct access for the users or hackers. So, I mean, when you talk about cloud systems, again, it is prone for attacks, whether it is DDoS and other things. So you have to build the necessary application layer mechanism as well as firewalling. So if you look at the API itself, right, like we have to make sure that the API layers are built with the right kind of mechanism to exchange the data, right? Whether it is tokenization or encryption of the required information, you need to encrypt the payloads that you share the data, the raw data. When the data is in transit, you need to make sure that those are encrypted with the right kind of encryption mechanism.
Super, awesome. I know security is I don't think there is any argument or any discussion that security is extremely important. And when you are born in the cloud company, I think as you rightly said, apart from what you want to deliver to the customers, security is right in the middle, even from defining your architecture. So absolutely. Biswa, you have been one of the first amongst the private banks to embrace SaaS-based security, right? Your SaaS-based solutions. It will be great if you can share your experience with the audience. I'm sure there are quite a few of them sitting on the fence, and not because they don't want to, they don't want to move to the cloud, but they have apprehensions, and a senior executive like you has been there, done that. If you can shed some light on that and how your journey has been, I think I'm sure the listeners would really appreciate that.
Sure, Ashish. So I think Krishnan gave a good, I would say, compendium of facts around security. And if anybody were to listen to him and actually adopt even 80% of what he said, I think that they would have probably achieved a good level of cybersecurity resilience, to be honest. But coming on the subject of web applications, obviously the world is at the edge where customers interact with us, or let's say devices interact with us, and data exchange happens. And the internet is always the place where the maximum amount of such interactions are happening between computers, right, and between individuals. So we have to take steps to protect multiple, I would say, aspects when you are on the internet, whether through a web application or through a app of your own, or just bare bones APIs that you expose, because you have a third party which is sitting somewhere, and the third party is using your APIs to be able to provide an open banking experience. All of these scenarios are have different contextual risks. But at the heart of it, data, of course, is number one, which Krishna already talked about. And data is responsibility of every bank and every financial institution, that the data of the customer is their data. They have to maintain the data. They have to have data at rest protocols. They have to have data in motion protocols. And data at rest and motion protocol is not just data encryption, but also the quality and the level of encryption, the kind of access to the data. How do you, both at the various layers, what are differently personally identifiable information that you have in that exchange? How do you specifically have controls around those? So there is a whole gamut of data protection, which I think needs to be kind of understood and needs to be complied with. But that was at the heart of any internet facing application. But at the end of the day, the application finally will exchange data, provided it is accessed, provided it is provided it is not compromised. So I think the other question that really comes up is, how do we prevent identity from being compromised of a client? Beyond that, when you look at an application by itself, how does it get accessed? There are controls around threats, which will come in the form of various kinds of attacks. So we've seen the WASP attacks, top 10 standards, top 20 standards. So where we have taken Indusface's help is to model the application, I would say, security on the basis of these attacks which might come, and providing a sort of a capable, trustworthy in the sense that, again, all those pieces of data encryption and data in motion and access and all of that being in place, how do I have the threat capability to repudiate such threats, right? So that's I think one part of the whole equation which Indusface is doing for us through the Aptrona piece that you guys have given us to implement. But the second thing, why it is cloud, is because we also feel that you cannot predict where the attack is going to come from, right? You cannot predict when the attack is going to come from. So you need two things. You need extremely fast ability to recover. In a situation, it is not that you've identified the problem, it is also how quickly you recover to the problem. So recovery is extremely important. Recovery is possible if you're able to isolate, if you're able to spawn multiple instances very quickly, if you're able to divert all of those where there is a problem that has been identified. How do you keep the resilience of the services up? That is when you bring client trust up. That is, you do not really compromise a client session, but you have detected that there is a problem, right? So I think resiliency in the face of an attack, how quickly you can respond, is another factor to consider. And obviously, being in a cloud, that helps us, because you guys have got a good model of replication, self-healing, and those kind of capabilities are important. I think the third thing is prevention. So prevention, while threat modeling you've already discussed, I think DDoS prevention is the other most commonly. I mean, one side is application layer attacks, and the other is a pure network layer attack, right, where you're looking at a DDoS kind of an attack. And although we have taken clean pipe services as well from our ISPs, but we now understand and realize that the WAF has an important role to play, because it also has an upstream DDoS component to it. So by virtually isolating the DDoS attack at the level of the WAF, and then having a second layer of clean pipe, and there my data center comes in. So I have in a way, I've been able to kind of isolate and keep layers of protection, and each of them from different service providers. So I think that kind of a mentality is also kind of playing a role, that it's not one service provider doing all the services. So it's different services and it's different service providers, so that the chances are minimized. Ultimately, it's a minimization game. Risk can never be zero. That's the way I would respond, Ashish.
Excellent, thanks. We all are known OEM as a software, right? So when you buy a software solution, you say this is an OEM vendor, and you get the solution from them, and then traditionally get the software, then get some service provider service to you that, and get somebody else to do something else for you. So, and if all these things work out, you will get the desired output you had signed up for. And now the new trend is that the OEM vendor itself should be a solution vendor. Whatever he has promised, he needs to deliver. And that's a trend I'm saying more and more. Would that be accurate from based on Biswa, you as running a large bank, and Krishnan as a born in the cloud company? What would be your views on that? I would let either one of you go and take a stab at it. Now,
Yeah,
Biswa?
so let me just say that solutions are the future. Software, if you look at a software provider, license provider, OEM, whatever you want to call them, flavors of the word, it's not one size fits all is not going to work. I mean, that's the bottom line. So you need to have ability to stitch together a solution which kind of addresses multiple dimensions and provides a holistic kind of an outcome to the client, that is us. As a banking or a financial institution, and it's the same as when we provide a service to a client, right? A client can't really not interested to download your app. He's interested in the range of services. Do you have a TDS certificate? Are you able to do a UPI banking transaction? Are you able to get your statement? Whatever be it, right? So similarly, when we are looking at a software maker, it has to be a solution mindset. It can't be just sell a piece of software and be done with it. And I think the world is moving towards a solution stack primarily because there are gaps. There are big gaps, and those gaps, when they get exploited, become a big problem. So in the solution world, in the security world, particularly, point solutions always existed. I think it's just a question of bridging them together, being able to be holistically aligned and drive that outcome that your security posture overall, you don't have any kinks, which are noticeable, which are exploitable, right? So I think that is a solution mindset that needs to come in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with Biswa. Like the solution-oriented approach is the next trend, right? Like the reason is you can stitch multiple solutions as part of your whole gamut of offering. You are actually trying to solve the real problem, right? So I can stitch a solution for a security standpoint. Say I want to go for a web solution, and I have a few services that are available from different cloud partners or other microservices that are available. But at the end of it, like what is needed is how you can give a solution to the customer that can actually give them the right approach, the right kind of problems that can solve, right? And also there is a time aspect, right? So when you are actually looking at it, it is not like that I have to take a long time in taking different point solutions and then integrating them together, right? So time is another aspect where you can, if these solutions are available in which can be offered quickly, right, and it can solve the real problems. That's what is the world is moving towards, right? A solution-oriented approach, which can also solve problems in the timeline that the businesses want, rather than implementation cycles of months to years.
Thank you, Krishnan. Biswa and Krishnan, it has been absolutely my pleasure to host you for this Fireside Chat. Thank you so much. I'm sure all the technology practitioners who are either building or growing their fintech organization will immensely gain from this session. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have enjoyed the session.